Again, the recap. Squats, if you want to get great at squats, typically training them 2 to 3 times per week. Bench, 2 to 3 times. Deadlifts, 1 to 2 times. 1.5 times is probably good for deadlifts, which would be 2 times 1 week, 1 time the next week.
So as a CrossFit athlete, and you're doing all this kind of stuff, and you're like, I want to, would you recommend like focus on one of them or a cycle, and then how do you like balance that with?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's no right or wrong. It kind of depends on what you want. So I like to ask myself, which movement would I want to increase the most on? And then I would also look at the overall cycle of what you're doing in CrossFit. So if you're doing a cycle in CrossFit and there's a lot, maybe more axial fatigue than normal, maybe there's like a ton of high rep snatches, high rep squats, etc. Maybe that cycle I would focus a little bit more on the bench press. Something that doesn't have a negative transfer towards your main money, which is the CrossFit. So it's always kind of trying to find that balance, right? If you want to add in maybe a little extra squat work, if you just had done a really axial fatiguing CrossFit workout the day before, I probably wouldn't, or I would add in maybe like belt squats or leg press. So the number one concern I have with like putting too much emphasis into the squat and the deadlift especially being a CrossFitter, is you're already dealing with a lot of axial fatigue. So, but if the goal is squat, bench, deadlift in some capacity, then maybe adding in accessories that don't add a whole lot of axial fatigue that facilitate well towards those. And that could be doing pause leg press. And again, belt squats, that could be doing RDLs, just kind of being careful with it. Yeah. And then being regular with it. Number one way to get stronger is specificity, practicing something repeatedly over time. Number two way it kind of builds into specificity is progressive overload. If your goal is strength, increasing intensity on a week-by-week basis is going to move the needle most. Intensity in this case means weight that you're lifting. Also understanding your volume landmarks. Let's say you added in an extra day of squat work, and the next day you go into squats, you feel like trash, awful. That means maybe you should decrease the dosage a little bit of what you did to facilitate itself within the context of your overall scheme. Let's say you're recovering really well, you're doing 6 CrossFit classes per week, recovery is not an issue, then that would be a time to maybe add in a little bit of extra volume in terms of areas that you want to improve upon. So it kind of depends.
And take a look at like your outside like factors.
Yeah.
Don't just think like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm not progressing this lift in the gym. I feel like I'm managing my fatigue well, but outside factors.
Yeah, and then when you think about recovery, it's not like what more things you can do, it's what less you can do. So lying on the couch is great. Eating food is great. Petting cute kittens and puppies is great. That helps you kind of de-stress a little bit. I think a lot of times people waste a lot of time with excessive warm-ups, where the reality is that you're getting a little placebo effect, but that's not addressing the root cause, which is training past capacity and not putting enough into fatigue management and recovery. Another way to balance it too is you don't always have to go like uber heavy or train till failure. So there's a dose relationship here. So if you wanted to get really good at squats and you wanted to add in some extra pause squats once a week to strengthen you out of the bottom of the portion of the squat, maybe just start with adding 1 to 2 working sets per week at like 70% at like RPE 6. So you're stopping 4 reps before failure. That's the way to get some stimulus in, but not enough that would create a ton of fatigue. So it's not like an all or nothing either. It's kind of balancing it with the context of how you're recovering. What other questions? Perf. I know we talked a lot about a lot. So if you have any questions regarding specific accessories that might cater as well, or anything regarding those 3 lifts, always gotcha. So thank you.
Thank you.
Here we go.